Hello everyone, this is Ebony. This is going to be an introductory video, probably the first video of two that's going to introduce my Diary of a Single Mother series. So I thought long and hard about this if I wanted to do this, and I definitely want to do it because I want to put a realistic view of what it looks like to be a single mother, the struggles and the successes, the highs and the lows. I wanted to put that out there to encourage someone, to let someone know that they can do it. If they're in a very terrible situation and they want to get out of that situation. I'm not encouraging divorce. I'm not promoting single motherhood. This is the last place I would want to be, but this is where I am and I have to make the best of it. But I also want to show someone else, that if you find yourself in this situation, it's not the end of the world. So I said that I do still believe that marriages and households where the mother and father are working together to raise their children are the best environments for children. It's just not my reality right now. So back in February, and it's October right now when I'm making this video. So back in February, I decided to leave my marriage. It wasn't a decision that I just, woke up one day and was like, I'm out of here. No, this is something I thought long and hard about. I cried many tears about. I went to marriage counseling. I went to individual counseling and therapy. I prayed about it. I sought the advice of pastors. And in the end, I realized that I needed to leave my marriage. I was in a relationship with my husband for 14 years. We were married for 10 years. We have a blended family of 6 kids. So the 3 youngest kids are our children together. I had 2 kids when I met him, and he had 1 child. And we've raised the 6 kids together in our home for all of our marriage. So I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm not going to edit this video, so just roll with me. So in February, we were still in marriage counseling at that point, and a lot of our discussions that we were having in counseling led me to realize that this is not a marriage that I need to continue with, because I realized that there were some fundamental character flaws that I saw in my husband that would never allow us to work. Okay, and let me just say this. I know a lot of people will say with God everything is possible. Pray, give your marriage to God. I understand that, and if that's what you want to do for your marriage, more power to you. I tried that. I tried that for years, and in the end I realized that I probably should have ended the marriage a long time ago, but I don't fault myself for trying, because I wanted to make sure if the marriage ever ended, it ended at a point where I was like, I did give it 100%. I did do the best that I could to make it work, and I do feel like that at this point. But anyway, we were in marriage counseling, and I just saw some fundamental character flaws, like some things that if a woman who's almost 40 now, I'll be 40 in a few weeks, a woman who's almost 40, if I were in the dating scene right now and I saw those in a person, I would not proceed with having a relationship with that person. When I met my husband, I was 25. I was much younger, and I didn't have the wisdom and discernment to see things then that I do now. Now, within our marriage, a lot of things have happened. A lot of great things have happened, and a lot of bad things have happened. There were a lot of things that I could have done better myself. There were a lot of things that I did that I really messed up on, and I know that now. There were a lot of things, if I were ever to be married again, that I would not do again, that I would stay far away from. I know that now. But within the marriage, there were a lot of things that happened. Very, very, very hard things. Like not easy stuff. Very heavy things. Very hard things. And we managed to work through those things to continue year after year. But what I realized is as a woman, especially when there were things, that were done on his end, I'm not innocent, so he probably could say the same thing about me, but I only can speak from my perspective. The things that were done on his end, the more things kept happening, the more resentment that I was building inside of me. And I thought that I was being forgiving, and I thought that I was being loving, but there was always that level of resentment that just kind of festered underneath the surface, where I could never look at him the same way I looked at him when we first got together, those first few years, where I was so in love and I loved him so much. And people will say that love is an action and it's not a feeling, and I definitely understand that. And I would try to put put that action into place. But after things happen, I would see him in a certain way, and my default was to kind of pull away. My default was to feel that resentment. And the more that I worked to get rid of it, I would think that I was at a place where it would no longer be there, and then something would happen and it would all come flooding back in. So once we got to the later stages of the marriage, where right up until the point where I decided to leave, major things were still happening, and some things happened with family members, and I became so depressed within my marriage. I pretty much let myself go. I wasn't doing my hair. I wasn't getting dressed every day. I was looking horrible. I gained a lot of weight, and every day was just painful to go through. Some days I would just wake up and I would feel so depressed. Some days I would come home to my marital home with my beautiful kids and just sit in the driveway and not want to go inside the house, because it was just so heavy, and so I was so unhappy within my home. Well, anyway, it got to those later points in the marriage where I was like, I felt like I was losing myself. I felt like I didn't know myself anymore, and I didn't have anyone to turn to, because I felt like within a marriage, if you're going through something very difficult, you can turn to your spouse. But I couldn't even turn to my spouse, so I felt so alone, although I was married. And I was in counseling, and with the counselor, I would kind of share some of the things I was going through, but because some of those things was just so hard and so embarrassing, I would find myself kind of pulling back and not sharing the whole situation with the counselor. And so she couldn't give me the advice I needed, because I couldn't be completely honest with her. And sometimes I would get off of my therapy session or my counseling session, and I would feel so hopeless. And it got to a point where I felt like I was losing myself. And my kids saw it. They saw it. Kids see everything. They saw me losing myself. They would make comments like, "Mom, what's wrong?" Sometimes I would try not to cry in front of them. I would try not to argue with my husband in front of them. But on occasions, they would see me crying. They would see me with just this heavy, disposition. And they would ask me like, "Mom, what's wrong?" And I just felt so hopeless and so trapped that I had to make the decision, okay, it's time for you to leave now. You've tried everything that you could try, and you realize that you're kind of at a dead end. And so now it's time to figure out the next steps. So the next steps was taking my large family and splitting the household and splitting the income. And I realized after doing all the numbers that I could not survive and maintain the same lifestyle for my kids on only what I made. If I were to split household and we have a mortgage over here and a rent payment over here, and 2 electricity bills and water bills and internet bills and cell phone bills and everything just split, insurance bills, I realized that I could not maintain the same level of the same lifestyle for my children, where they could be in extracurricular activities, they could be in basketball and gymnastics. I couldn't do that on my income alone. Although I would have my husband there to support, or my ex-husband there to support financially with the kids, just maintaining a household in this day and age where inflation is out the roof, housing is out the roof, grocery bills are out the roof, I wouldn't be able to do it on my salary alone. And I make a decent salary. I make a pretty good salary. By all means, I make a pretty good salary, but with 5 kids, 6 including my bonus daughter, which I still consider my daughter, but she's an adult now. But with 5 kids, I just could not afford it, and I felt so trapped. And so I had to find alternative ways of making money. But with that single motherhood lifestyle comes the stress of figuring out how you're going to make things work. And how you're going to make things work is in every